this Sunday, though I think they might have been a little relieved to have given it up today. So now I'm on it. I was thinking toward the end of this week whether election day or election morning, when the results were in, if that was the single most disruptive day of my life. I thought back to the day John Kennedy was killed. I was in 10th grade. And as terrifying as that was, the next day, the vice president took over. And while it was terrible, it wasn't disruptive in the same way that I experienced this week. I thought back to the events of 1968, the assassination of Dr. King, Robert Kennedy, leading to the election of Richard Nixon. But that was over a period of months. It got all kind of spread out. 9/11. Horrible. Certainly disruptive. But as horrible as it was, kind of contained compared to this. No, I think it was. I can think of no public event in my life that was as disruptive as what I experienced this week. And certainly we have personally disruptive events. I thought back to those and I realized all the real disruptive events in my life have been positive. I've had some good things happen to me all of a sudden. And then I thought, well, maybe that's my selective memory. Maybe that's just my personality. Maybe that's all I wanted to think about today. I don't know. But I do know that I haven't become any smarter in the last week. I don't know history any better. Not any more skillful in communicating than I was this week. I'm no better informed. Yet the times seem to require more of me now. Well, eventually, maybe you've already got tired of baseball analogies with me. But if you're playing in the World Series, you didn't become automatically a better player just because everybody's watching you. And as the Cubs eventually found out, the best way to perform is to just do what you can do and try not to do more than you can do. And that's advice I hope to take myself and give to each of us. We didn't get smarter or wiser or kinder this week. But there is something that I think we can do, maybe not better, but keep on doing it. And that is to go back to our first Unitarian principle, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. And immediately here and now extended to those who voted for Donald Trump. We don't have too much trouble extending it to a lot of people, and that's well and good. But I ask us to do that today and in the future. And brothers and sisters, I grew up in rural Ohio. My father was part of that transition that was made from the farm to the factory. And now you know what? There's no farm there, and there's no factory. And I'm tired of hearing those voters called stupid. They may be misinformed. It may be time to do a pedagogy of the oppressed in our own land, and not just to the people we traditionally think of as being oppressed. The oppressed are often ignorant of their oppression, of their colonization. The rural white voter has been colonized by agribusiness and international corporations every bit as much as the colonized black populations once were by European imperialists. And like them, they have now been abandoned. And moreover, kept as they traditionally have been, ignorant and agitated to hate other oppressed populations as a distraction from the real source of their exploitation and abandonment. Many Unitarian Universalists are escapees from that colony. But not everyone has escaped. It is far past time for Unitarian Universalists to be secure enough in their education and desire to liberate some oppressed minorities, to embrace those who are not so easily embraced. In the 19th century, there was a concept called the worthy poor. It was the idea that some poor were, frankly, of a good Christian nature and were deserving of the charity of the higher classes. And that there were other of the poor to whom their poverty could be held to blame themselves for. They were a criminal class, they were a debauched class, and they were not the worthy poor. Reagan updated that concept to the welfare queen that he invented. But I don't think Unitarian Universalists want to embrace a concept of the worthy poor. We didn't embrace it during the times of Dickens, and we shouldn't embrace it in the time, although we hope it's short, of Trump. That is, we must find a way to affirm the anger of the Trump voters at an unjust economic system while not affirming the hatred and bigotry toward other groups who are also oppressed by the same forces. Bernie Sanders. This has been the difficulty in social justice work in America forever. The people united can never be defeated. The people, not just the people we choose to affirm or who choose currently to affirm us. We need to move away from being only states united to a people united. Meanwhile, let's be brave about protecting each other, protecting the weak and vulnerable around us, protecting those specifically who are likely to be the target of hatred and bigotry in the coming times. There's a guy who has a little store on the corner in Jersey City. It's kind of a whatnot store, but anyhow, I'm not quite sure exactly what you would call it. But for some reason, if you want something that nobody else has, he seems to have plenty in stock, whatever it is. So he has the most obscure batteries I've ever seen. Really great. But I was looking for some safety pins where several places didn't have them. You know, the safety pin has become a symbol of safety, that if you're feeling threatened and you see me wearing a safety pin, this doesn't mean that you are safe with me. I brought plenty of them. But anyhow, I went in and asked this guy, I said, do you have safety pins? And he said, what kind? What size? I said, oh, I don't know, just what do you got? And he showed me about 200 different safety pins in 15 different sizes. And I said, I'll take them all. He said, oh, that'll be $2. And he asked, what do you need all these safety pins for? I explained to him, and he just said, I guess I order some more. As we work toward this, as we struggle to live each day only as well as we are capable, my wife Kathleen reminded me of something I found comforting. Last week I spoke on taking the long view, that the days after this election, regardless of the outcome, would be challenging, and that the vote itself, however decisive or not, would lead to another day. Remember, I quoted Daniel Berrigan, who told me years ago, right action alone is yours, leave results severely alone. Now, Kathleen's a real Buddhist, not a pretender like me. She told me something that her teacher had said to her. You can't fix samsara. Now, samsara is a Sanskrit word originally for world, but it also means wandering, specifically the way a butterfly wanders, apparently randomly. More abstractly, it has come to mean the endless cycles of change. Theologically, in the Hindu text, it goes back to the Upanishads, at least 1000 BC. It also has a meaning in Hindu text and Jain text. The cover that Robin so wonderfully used for the poster is a thangka. You'll see that it has 6 divisions that represent the cycles of life and the divisions of samsara, from the hell realms to the animal realm to the human realm to so on. And one, my favorite realm, the hungry ghosts, the realm of the hungry ghosts. Because I find that so often in times of need, we live in the realm of the hungry ghosts. I'll go back and preach a whole sermon on that sometimes. But what that cycle of samsara is a cycle, the continuing cycle in Buddhism of birth and rebirth. But we are reminded that even in Buddhism, birth and rebirth doesn't just mean the death of the body and the traveling of the soul through the bardo and reincarnation. It also is about the death and birth that we experience every day in all sorts of ways. It's tied up in a way with the idea of karma, that your actions have consequences that lead one's cycles in particular directions, and that these directions are somewhat predictable. What comes around goes around. Though sometimes it is hard to see, as the Old Testament says, why do the wicked prosper? The answer, according to samsara, is, well, the prosperity won't last. Because nothing lasts. We remember the name of George Harrison's first solo album, right? All Things Must Pass. My favorite gospel song, This Trouble Won't Last, Always. And so that's why I found the notion that you can't fix samsara to be a comfort and a sort of awakening for me this week. The winter now will later be last. Why? Because the times, they are a-changing. That is, the calamity of this week will pass. To what? It is not given to us to know. But it is useful, meanwhile, to keep, again, a sports analogy, one's knees bent and wrists loose. There are always waves to ride, and we know this. And we also know that we might not one day survive their amplitude or undertow. Tomorrow is never given to any of us, but now is one of those times when it is revealed to us more than through the everyday smaller tides of life. And also remember, to those who have rejoiced in this week's events, you can't fix samsara either. Your future is also uncertain. I wonder, might there be some buyer's remorse in the future? Oh, I think there might. Are you any less poor? Do you have any more opportunities than last week? Are your family members less addicted to opioids? It takes more than an election to change lives. We all need to remember that. There may be some very disappointed people in the near future who may become allies for progress. Kathleen also asked the question as we were discussing the events of this week. How do we apply this fire? That is, what do we do with all the emotion and energy coming from so many sources, in so many directions, with so many diverse motivations? Remember, creation and destruction are not two events. Creation and destruction are one event. Something goes, something comes, something dies, something is born. All is samsara, the eternal passing of illusions. Frederick Douglass said, if there is no struggle, there is no progress. Thich Nhat Hanh, the Vietnamese monk, said, no mud, no lotus. Yet through all this change and all this illusions, there are suggestions of something more. That more in Hinduism is Brahma, the unchanging, which is not samsara, but simply is. Sometimes we touch upon it. Leonard Cohen, again. The birds they sang at the break of day start again. I heard them say, don't dwell on what has passed away or what is yet to be. The wars, they will be fought again. The holy dove, she will be got again. Bought and sold and bought again. The dove is never free. You can add up the parts, but you won't have the sum. You can strike up the march, but there is no drum. Every heart will come to love, but like a refugee. Ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. May we join together in our closing hymn, number 1.